Welcome to Influential Sports, where passion meets precision. As I'm your host, Ed, diving deep into the plays, players, and stories shaping the game. And I got a lot to talk about, so make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, comment, and share for others to see. It's just a lot that I'm going to be talking about. The NHL season is back, the NBA season is back, the MLB World Series just kicked off, so it's a lot to talk about. And as I mentioned first off already, we're gonna get y'all see the title. That's gonna be a bit later into the video since that's the biggest topic. I want to say that for last, so or not last. That's gonna be right before I do my right before I do athletes of the week, because athletes of the week is always last. So it'll be right before that. But to get into it, let's talk about some NHL. Let's talk about the Calgary Flames and their never-ending losing streak so far this season. The Calgary Flames are 1-7-1. And for people that don't watch hockey, that one at the end, that's not a tie, that's an overtime loss. So if you win in overtime or on a shootout, then you get the win. But if you lose in overtime, then that's looked at as that's an extra that's still a loss, but you'll be 1-7-1 like the Calgary Flames are, because it didn't end in a tie, they just lost in overtime. And so because the hockey is based off of points, so it's about the most points that you're able to get. And with the Calgary Flames, they're eighth in the Pacific Division, and that's the division they play in. They're eighth. They're one of only three teams in the NHL so far this season with just one win, and they're the worst one-win team out of all three of them, as they've lost 8 straight games. One of them ending with a tie, which is why they had an extra one added to the end of their record. They have 3 points scored, which is the least amount of points scored this season. And they won. They won their first game of the season in overtime. It was a shootout versus the Oilers, which ended up winning the game 4-3. Then after that, they just dropped 8 straight games. So the Flames haven't been able to get anything going for them. Their 8 straight losses that they have had have been by combined 19 goals. So they've given up multiple goals in each game. And they've only been in 2 overtime games. The other overtime game they went into was recent, which they still ended up losing that one so far in the season. Blake Coleman, he has 3 goals and 1 assist, so he has 4 points. And then Cosman Kadri, he has 1 goal and 4 assists for the Flames for 5 points. So the Flames just look bad. They have 2 overtime games, like I said. I seen their game last night against the Jets. I've seen a few of the Flames games. Haven't seen every one of them, but from what I've seen, they just look bad. Last night was a game which I can recap that a little bit. Since I got my other notebook here. And the Flames, they scored first in last night's game. It was their 3rd shot on goal. They got off to an early start. They had a 1-0 lead. And then the Jets, they ended up tying. They were up. The Flames were up 1-0 to end that first period. But then the Jets were able to tie it. The Winnipeg Jets tied it, and they ended up taking a 2-1 lead. They led 3-1 at one point. After they went down 1-0, they dominated in that second and third period. And when they ended up winning the game, the Jets ended up winning 4-3. It was actually a competitive game. The Flames stayed in it. Like the Jets, they took over that second period. But in the third period, it was a bit more competitive, and the Flames put up a good fight. They still ended up losing 4-3. And the Jets ended up improving to 6-2. Winnipeg is off to a good start this season. The Flames fall to 1-7-1. Just another loss. And like I said, that's not a tie. That's just an overtime loss that's added to the end of the record. So they played in 2 overtime games. So overtime's been the only way they've been able to get a win. Last night they scored the first goal, still lost. So I don't know what's going on with the Calgary Flames, but this never-ending losing streak extended last night, losing their 8th straight game. Worst team in the NHL so far. And like I said, there's 2 other teams who have 1 win in the NHL season, but they have not been as bad as what the Calgary Flames have, and it's not really looking up from here. Hopefully they can improve. There's plenty of season left. It's an 82-game season, but if you want to make a run for the playoffs, this is the worst way to get started, because you're already digging yourself out of a hole, which you be in 8th in your division out of the 8 teams there. So you can't even focus on because winning the division, that's still possible. It likely won't happen when you get off to such a bad start. This possible in an 82-game season with them starting so bad, but they just need to focus on the now. They don't need to focus on later in the season. They just need to focus on now and make some changes, because 1-7-1, that's a terrible start within the first 9 games. and losing 8 straight by a combined 19 and only being able to win due to a game going to overtime. So the Calgary Flames still look bad. I don't know how they can turn it around. Obviously, a few moves will help, but what moves do they need to make? I don't know at this point. But the Calgary Flames look bad, like I said. And with that being said, that's the bit of hockey talk that I have for today. As we get deeper into the season, it'll be more hockey coverage week by week, whether that's me covering a certain team, covering different players. We're gonna move on to some NFL stuff. Talk about the NFC West because they have three teams that are 5-2, all in playoff position at the moment. They have one team who clearly isn't the best at anything, who is the Cardinals. They're 2-5. James Conner is out for the season, so I won't be talking about the Cardinals. They're terrible. 2-5, like I said, no James Conner. If they did have James Conner, they probably have a few more wins. They might have 3 or 4 wins. Who knows? But the Cardinals, this is as much coverage as they're getting this week because they're simply not the best team in that division. Now you got the 49ers, Seahawks, and Rams, and that's the order it follows due to the tiebreakers. They're all 5-2 in the NFC West. So to talk about who's the best, I think it may be obvious, even if people want to call it a fluke. I think and I'm gonna go down each team before I say who's the best. I'm gonna talk about each team first. With the 49ers, they're 5-2, leading the division. As they had the best division record, they're 3-0. Have played all three of their division rivals so far and won against all three of them, beating the Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals already. CMC is leading in rushing and receiving yards, which has been great. And they have a ton of injuries such as Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Brock Purdy. But they have a lot of injuries, and Kyle Shanahan has done a great job coaching, and they'll still look great. And Christian McCaffrey has just had a great season leading the team in rushing and receiving yards. I don't see why CMC shouldn't be in the MVP conversation. I know it's an award that's dominated by quarterbacks now, but CMC should definitely be in the conversation for MVP, and Kyle Shanahan should be in the conversation for Coach of the Year, because at the end of the day, it can't just be Kyle Shanahan just coaching a bunch of bums, and it just can't be a bunch of elite talent with the 49ers. Both got to coincide with each other. You got to have the right coaching staff, and you got to have the right players. So they got the coaching staff. They got a great coach in Kyle Shanahan, who's done a great job despite all the injuries. And Christian McCaffrey, he's just stepped up leading and receiving when you have a limited receiving core. When Deebo Samuel goes to the Commanders, when Brandon Ayuk, when he's out, George Kittle, he's missing. And then CMC, he's leading receiving yards and rushing yards. And I'm going to talk about CMC a bit later for a different segment. But CMC's just been having a great year, and he should be the leader for Offensive Player of the Year at this point, and he should be in the MVP conversation as well. Like I said, credit to Kyle Shanahan too, because Mac Jones, he still isn't. He's been able to win them games, and that's behind the coaching of Kyle Shanahan. Brock Purdy is still the better quarterback. When Brock Purdy comes back, Mac Jones won't be starting because he still makes those mistakes, and it's obvious that Mac Jones isn't the better quarterback because they've had the 49ers have dealt with injuries all year, even to their defense with Fred Warner being out. And it was somebody else that got injured. I can't think of his name right now. But they had two significant injuries on defense, and they're still 5-2. They're 3-0 in the division already. And then as far as the Seahawks, who are 5-2, they're 1-1 in the division so far. The Seahawks run game has been pretty inconsistent with Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker, because it's like neither one of them have really had that explosive game that you're waiting for. And the Kenneth Walker is the better back to me. I know he got benched for a taunting call in one of the games, which I thought was BS. I didn't think he should have been benched for that. I don't even think he should have been called for taunting, because at the end of the day, can the players not show emotion now? Like, I don't know why they want to take that out the game and not allow the players to show emotion. That don't make sense to me. But the Seahawks, like I said, the run game has been inconsistent. So I think that's going to be the negative with the Seahawks. Like, they need a more consistent run game between Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, whether that's splitting the carries more equally or what, but they need something to fix because the run game has not been great. And then now their defense has been great. I might be saying this name wrong, but Nwosu, he got 5 sacks on the year for 49 sack yards. And Brian Murphy III has been great. So this defensive front it's been amazing for the Seahawks. Like, they were winning these games because of their defense. And then Jackson Smith-Njigba was doing his thing offensively too. Has probably been the best wide receiver in the league this season. He's having a great year. So you got to give him his credit and respect for what he's been able to do with the Seahawks. And Sam Darnold, I'm still not the biggest fan of him. He's done what he's needed to do to win them games. But I think JSN, I just think he makes quarterbacks better because we've seen it with Geno, what Geno went from this year to last year. Like, he still has weapons. I know that Brock Bowers is injured, but having Jackson Smith-Njigba, like, that's definitely going, and that's not a discredit to Geno or Sam Darnold, but that's more of a credit to JSN that he's able to make quarterbacks better, which is going to be valuable in his career because they're not going to have Sam Darnold forever. So once Jalen Milroe gets his time, once he's the quarterback, and I'm not saying this year because Sam Darnold's not bad, but once Milroe steps into that spotlight in a couple of years, you're going to have JSN there, and he's going to really help him out a lot. So I like what JSN's been able to do for the Seahawks. Now the Rams, who are 0-1 in the division, only one division game so far. So out of these 8 weeks so far, their last 9 weeks, they had to play within their division 5 times. So they're really going to be battle-tested late into the season because the 49ers and Seahawks are in the same position, fighting for a playoff spot. The Cardinals won't be in the playoffs, but they could easily be a trap game, especially within the division. A team that likely isn't going to make the playoffs, but they're division rivals. So those games, you got to be prepared for to win that. So, yeah, the Rams, they got, in the next 9 weeks, they got 5 division matchups. So they got the most division matchups out of them, the Seahawks and the 49ers. Like I said, I'm not talking about the Cardinals. They suck. But the Rams' 2 losses are only by a combined 10 points. One of their games they lost in overtime to the Seahawks, I think, by 3. And then their other loss came against my Eagles by 7 in a game that really they shouldn't. A lead that they gave up, a game that the Eagles just had an amazing second half and really showed up and showed out. But they have 2 combined losses by 10 points, so it's not like they're losing by a lot. And then Puka Nacua had 616 yards and 2 touchdowns on the season. So Puka Nacua has been great. I know he did miss one game, and I don't think the injury was too significant, but he's played in 6 out of 7 games, so having him is going to be really crucial and valuable for the Rams. Excuse me. But yeah, they're on 1 in the division, and then, like I said, their other loss came against the Eagles in a game that the Eagles just had an amazing second half, and that's not a lead they should blow. You shouldn't be in a position to where you're up 19 and then you lose due to a blocked field goal. That shouldn't happen. But their 2 losses came by a combined 10 points. It's not like they got blown out in any of the 2 games they lost in. So to answer my question of who the best team in the NFC West is, I'm still going with the 49ers because I think they've been battle-tested in different ways than other teams. Like, some teams get battle-tested, like like the Bills, who have a great record, but most of their games are against weaker opponents. The way the 49ers have been battle-tested, dealing with all the injuries, dealing with key injuries on defense and offense. You have a backup quarterback. Your starting running back is leading your team in receiving yards. Like, I think the 49ers have been the best team because they've been able to overcome the adversity, and they're 3-0 in the division already. They've beaten the Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals already and outplayed them in those games. And obviously, they're all won in different ways. Cal Shanahan's done a great job coaching. Even on paper, they might not be the best due to the injuries, but I think them being able to just dealing with the adversity through that to win those games, that's what makes them the best, in my opinion. And it's still time for the Seahawks and Rams to prove me wrong. Like I said, the Rams have only played 1 division game, which they lost by 3 points in overtime. So it's not like that's a bad loss. You're still 5-2 at the end of the day. Now, it's possible that all 3 of these teams can make the playoffs. It's also possible that one of these teams could miss the playoffs because at the end of the day, it's 4 divisions. And 1 division winner got to get in. At least one team from each division got to get in. Then you got the Eagles, Cowboys, and Commanders. They're all fighting. The Eagles will probably win the division again, but then you got the Commanders and Cowboys fighting for playoff position. And the North, the Packers are benefiting heavily from that tie that they had against the Cowboys. You got them, the Vikings probably not gonna make it, but you still got the Lions. Still got the Lions and the Packers. Maybe the Bears do something. The Vikings, I'm unsure about. And then I'm trying. I'm forgetting somebody. I know who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting somebody, but it's look at the standings real quick. Oh yeah, the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers will probably make it, but the Panthers are 4-3. Maybe they can make some noise. Like they really it's 3 5-2 teams, and one of them probably won't make the playoffs. At least two of these teams are getting in. Who misses the playoffs? Like it's very possible that one of these teams can miss the playoffs despite all three of them starting 5-2. That's the problem with starting 5-2 in the same division. So it's going to be a tough battle to see who wins the NFC West. But so far into the season, I think that the 49ers are the best team out of the three. I just explained why. But the Seahawks and Rams, they have other games and other stuff that they'll have to worry about that maybe they could prove me wrong. But CMC should be in the MVP conversation. Kyle Shanahan should be leading for Coach of the Year because he's been amazing dealing with all these injuries. Shane Steichen as well, what he's been able to do with the Colts. I don't think people had many expectations for them. But just sticking to the NFC West, CMC has been amazing. The Seahawks have a very inconsistent run game, but the defense is great. I like what Nassau and Brian Murphy bring to the table. And then the Rams, they don't have bad losses. The Rams only lost 2 games by a combined 10 points. So I think all these teams are going to have, hopefully nothing goes bad, but I think all these teams are going to finish great. But one of them is probably missing the playoffs. And that's just because of how tough the NFC has been this year. Like it's been a very competitive NFC. So it's very possible that despite the 49ers, Seahawks, and Rams all being 5-2, one of them could miss the playoffs. One of these teams could very well miss the playoffs, and that'd be crazy. Now to the next segment, Zips update. If you don't know what this is, this is where I talk about the University of Akron sports. Since I go to the University of Akron, I cover all of our sports at least. So that's football, volleyball, and men's and women's soccer. Then the basketball season will be starting soon. So men and women's basketball will be covered within this segment as well soon, but not right now since the season ain't started yet. But to talk about the Zips football first, last week suffered a loss versus Ball State, lost 42-28. Started the kicking has been so bad that when we got our first touchdown, we went for a 2-point conversion, and it was successful too. Still ended up losing the game but Ben Finley, the quarterback, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a 55 completion percentage, not great. And our backups aren't any better. Like they're backups for a reason, but even when we bring the backups in, that doesn't make much of a difference. So you got to stick with Ben Finley until we can get somebody better, whether that's through recruiting or a transfer. But Ben Finley isn't the guy. The receivers, they aren't great either, because some of the receivers have some very crucial drops that just don't make sense. And then the defense gave up 2 touchdowns in every quarter except for the second. The second quarter was the only quarter where Akron held Ball State scoreless. Every other quarter they scored 2 touchdowns. That's why they were able to win 42-28. Just complete domination. And then today Akron has a road game later against Buffalo football team. And then Buffalo is 4-3, so that game could really go either way. But Akron is 2-6 at this point. I don't see much going up from here. 2-6 in football, just so y'all know that. But I don't see much happening on that road game versus Buffalo. I don't know too much about Buffalo's football team. I didn't even know Buffalo had a football team, but that's cool. I guess it might result in another loss because Akron is already. They can't get a bowl game now unless they were to win. If they were to win out, which is not happening, I just don't see it. Like if they were to win out, like I don't even see them getting the 5 wins, which is the slightest chance of a bowl game if everything goes wrong for some 6-win teams. But it's likely not happening. The season is probably over. Time to throw in the towel. Just play these games out. But it's nothing. It's no reason to expect anything from the football team. And then the volleyball. The women's volleyball got a win last night. I was at that game. Well, I work at the games, so I was the main cameraman for yesterday's game, which was cool. I had fun with it. And we were able to win that game. Like I said, improved to 10-11. Are now 3-7 in the conference for volleyball. Last week, um, last week on October 18th, got swept by Central Michigan, and what Central Michigan just had their way with Akron's volleyball last week, just completely dominated. Then Akron was able to turn it around last night in their win versus NIU in 5 sets. Now the 5 sets they weren't a competitive 5 sets. It was kind of all over the place. Like Akron won the first set, NIU won the second set. Akron won set 3, NIU won set 4, then Akron won set 5. But it wasn't really close or competitive throughout the game. From the early beginnings of a few of the sets, it was close, but for the most part, whoever won the set, they pretty much dominated for a good majority of the time. And like I said, we got the win, which was great. It's 8 games left in the season, I think, for volleyball. So I don't know if Akron has a chance at the playoffs for volleyball, but with it being 8 games left, it should be exciting. We have another game against NIU that I'm working later today at 2 o'clock. Well, the game starts at 4, but I got to be there at 2 to get set up and everything. So it's 8 games left in the season. Hopefully, Akron, the volleyball team, can turn it around and make something happen, even if we don't get to the playoffs, but at least make something happen. Now, speaking of one of our sports teams that could have a good shot at making the playoffs, our men's soccer team, Akron soccer team, 8-3-3, 2-1 and 1 in the conference. Last week was their first tie within the conference. It was a tie against Seton Hall, which it would have been nice if we was able to get the win, but the tie is better than losing because ties can be really valuable and crucial, as we've seen in football. The Packers they tied with the Cowboys, and that's been beneficial for both teams actually, because the Packers are leading their division since they only had 1 loss, and the Cowboys they jumped the Commanders after that win since they're 3-1, and the Commanders are 3-4. But back to the topic at hand, our men's soccer team, 8-3-3. We've had a great season. Our last 3 games are Xavier, Marquette, and Creighton, and we should be able to win two of those 3 games and finish the season with 10 wins. Like I don't expect us to go 3-0 and win out for the rest of the season, but I can't see us dropping all 3 either. Like we're winning 2 of those games. I'd be very shocked if we don't win 2 of those games, and really in whatever order. But I think our men's soccer team has been our best sports team so far because, like I said, basketball season hasn't started yet. So this year, our men's soccer team has been the best out of our sports team because football has been bad, volleyball has been pretty mediocre, and the women's soccer team is 4-9-3, 1-7-2 in the conference now. They've lost 3 straight games. All 3 games they lost 3-0. So in 3 games they gave up 9 goals. So it's simply not good. Yet to win on the road. We're 0-5-3 on the road, which is not great at all. It's hard to win. I mean, like you can't be competitive if you're losing that many games on the road. Then the final 2 games is against Bowling Green and Toledo. Akron's women's soccer team, they're already out of playoff contention. Even if they win the next 2, it won't matter because they'll be 6-9-3. So whether they win or lose, the playoff hopes for the women's soccer team is pretty much over. But the men's soccer team, they could actually make some noise. They've been pretty good this season. As long as they win 2 out of the next 3, I'm pretty sure we're straight. I think we have a good chance of making the playoffs. For volleyball, there's still 8 games left, so hopefully I think 6-2 is feasible. Because our team isn't bad. Our volleyball team isn't bad. It's just make a lot of mistakes, a lot of server errors. Like we could go 6-2 and finish 16 and 13. Even though it wouldn't be amazing, it'd be at least a bit better than just being a mediocre team. And now with that being said, TNA has been off the last 2 weeks. Just been doing recaps and interviews. And I think this is because TNA is in for a huge reset coming up soon. They return on November 13th. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about all the champions and talk about the stories they should tell and why once they come back, since they're doing this reset right now, instead of doing this reset to get geared up and prepared, because they got an event right after that on the 14th, if I'm not mistaken, that Friday. November 13th, Impact she'll be back with some wrestling matches, with some promos to build up some feuds. So I think that's coming up soon, and it's gonna be fun to see. So for the world champion Mike Santana, I think he should go into a feud with Cedric Alexander. Give him somebody, not necessarily like Cedric's took a few losses, but build up Cedric a bit more. You could play into that. Mike Santana could be like, you don't even have that many wins to be challenging me. Then Cedric could be like, I can prove myself, and he can earn a number one contender shot at the world title or even a tournament to determine the next contender for Mike Santana. Well, technically Mike Santana's first opponent. So that'd be something cool that they could do. And I think even though it's face versus face, they can make it work. Just be a cool side feud to start off Mike Santana's reign, and then him and Cedric will have a good match. I think they could cut some good promos, tell a decent story. So that's how I'd start off Mike Santana. International champion Steve Macklin. I would just have to feud with Mustafa Ali. The feud with Order 4 in the system is done. So you still need Order 4 to do something. So have Ali try to reestablish the group by having him go after Steve Macklin. Even if you lose, have it be shenanigans. He don't got to lose clean, but you still want to protect him and build him up in the future for your future plans. But I'd do something like that for the Hardy Boys, who are double champions with the NXT and TNA tag titles. They're still feuding with the with Dark State and NXT. But for their TNA feud, when they come back, I would have them feud with the Northern Armory, Judas. I don't know what they're calling themselves now, but I would just have them feud with Northern Armory because I think they can still play really good heels, cut promos of their own. Don't need nobody by their side, and then let them go out to the Hardys. Even if they lose, it's going to be a good way to build up another tag team and make them feel important, make them feel like, oh, we can compete with the Hardy Boys. So you could do something like that. It'd be super dope to see. Like, I think that could really work out. And then for the X Division champion Leon Slater, you got this tag team thing going on with Javon Evans and TNA. I mean, not a TNA, NXT, which is cool. But once TNA is back, he should feud with Mance Warner because obviously they want to establish him as the top heel. So why not have him go after the youngest in charge? See if you go after the top young guy in the company, and they can help add prestige to Leon Slater's reign with a good title defense against Mance Warner. He can win. Maybe even Steph DeLander makes Mance Warner lose by accident. Then you tell a story with them on screen, and you continue that story. And then it seems like they're gonna split, but things happen. They're able to work it out. Maybe they go to AAA and win the mixed tag team titles and do something like that. And then for the knockouts, champion Kalani Jordan, I will have her feud with Tessa Blanchard, who's the top heel in TNA. She's the top female heel in TNA. So I would have her feud with her to add credibility to her reign. She's not going to drop it now. She just won it recently, and she beat Indy Hartwell for it. I mean, to retain it. So that's telling me that when she loses it, it's going to be somebody big. It might not be Tessa Blanchard. So you could have her feud with Tessa Blanchard to add more credibility to that reign. Try to have Tessa Blanchard bring it back, but you don't want the TNA fans to boo Kalani Jordan. So why not do it with somebody who's always getting booed based off the fact that she's a heel and based off of her real life actions? So she's a good heel in general. Like, she's always been a good heel. You will never see Tessa Blanchard getting cheered before the whole incident. Even after the incident, of course, she's not going to get cheered. But even before the incident, she was not getting cheered. She's always been a great heel, no matter what people say. So that'd be a great way to add credibility to her reign. And then the Inspiration, the Knockouts Tag Champions, they should feud with the Andrew Warriors, Zaya Lee and Lei Chain Lee. Honestly, they got history teaming together. Instead of been cool, but I think a babyface versus babyface tag team could be a tag team feud. It could be cool. Like, it don't have to be, and it could be even intense. Like, TNA can pull it off because they have a limited roster. So it makes more sense for them to do face versus face or heel versus heel sometimes. So I think that's the direction I feel like each champion should go in with TNA comes back. But in general, I'm just excited for this because them taking a break after Bound for Glory, it gives them some time. It gives them time to reinvent themselves, TNA as a brand, as a roster. It gives them time to think about, what do we want to do? We still have our wrestlers working with NXT, so they're still staying fresh. There's still stories that they can tell. Like we got Leon Slater and Javon Evans wrestling this weekend. at Halloween Havoc later tonight. We got Kalani Jordan on NXT getting kicked out the locker room. And so you have stories that you can tell, and it's going to be super interesting to see. So yeah, I think, yeah, like I said, it gives him time to really reset, think about, oh, should Mike Santana do this? Should he do that? Let's see, does he feud with Rich Swann or AJ Francis? Does he feud with both? What does Steve Macklin do? What do we do with Order 4? What do we do with the system? Like I like TNA did this because obviously a lot of their shows are pre-taped due to them being under new management for the last few years, and a lot of stuff is going to be improved and even better for 2026. So I like that they're taking this route of let's see what we can do, let's see how we can improve. Let's take off after Bound for Glory, then come back November 13th. So because Bound for Glory was not too long ago, it was, yeah, when they come back, it would have been a month since Bound for Glory because that happened earlier this month. So it's going to be cool to see. I'm excited to see the changes that they make and see what new stories they have because once they come back, everything is reset. The only stories that they have going on is for it's them working with NXT because the Hardys are still feuding with Dark State. Leon Sutton and Javon Evans doing the tag team thing. Kalani Jordan got kicked out the NXT locker room. So even some of the wrestlers they still have working. Obviously, Joe Hendry, he might make an appearance here and there. So they still keeping their wrestlers fresh. And they continue to do that by having, Leon Sutton just defended too against Dax this past Tuesday. So I like the route they going. Like they want to be able to reset by allowing some of their wrestlers to work with NXT so they can stay fresh as well. So I'm excited to see what direction that they're going in once they do come back. And now let's recap the Blue Jays and Dodgers game. I made a short about it. Obviously, the short can only be 1 minute because I remixed it from the video, from the highlight video. But seeing the full game of the Blue Jays and Dodgers, game 1 at the MLB World Series 2025. Just three not takeaways, but three things that were very noticeable from last night's game. I'm gonna start with the Dodgers first since they lost. I'm in with the Blue Jays. Got to end with the winners. I'm gonna start with the Dodgers first. Shohei Ohtani played great. 4 at bats, 1 run, 1 hit, 2 RBIs, and a home run. He was struck out twice, but he also had 2 RBIs and a home run. So I think when he has that good of a game, he can afford to be struck out twice. And he wasn't the only one, which I'll get to that in a second. But Shohei Ohtani played the best out of them, out of everybody on the Dodgers. He had a great game from start to finish, in my opinion. And obviously, he could have played a bit better, but they lost 11-4. So how much better could he have played to avoid them losing by 7 runs? It's like Shohei Ohtani did a very good job. He did what he could. He could have played a bit better, but that wouldn't have made a huge difference to say that if he plays a little bit better, they would have won. Because it's a whole team sport. It's not just Shohei Ohtani out there batting and pitching by himself. And it leads me to the next thing. There were 5 players on the Dodgers who struck out at least 2 times. Shohei was one of them, but he also had one of the home runs that they had, and he had 2 RBIs. So the Dodgers had 5 players in their batting rotation that were struck out at least 2 times. And you have that, you simply can't win that way, especially when that doesn't happen to the opposing side. Like it's hard to win a game like that. Just 5 players, that many players being struck out multiple times in game 1 of the World Series. That's just something that you can't have happen. And then Blake Snell, the pitcher for the Dodgers, he was the only pitcher with a strikeout. He had 4 strikeouts, and the Dodgers played 4 pitchers in last night's game. No other pitcher had a strikeout. Blake Snell was the only one that had a strikeout, which he had 4 of. He had all 4 of the Dodgers strikeouts. So you have such an elite pitching rotation, and you can only get 4 strikeouts from just one player. Nobody else can get a strikeout. It's hard to win a game like that. And that's part of the reason why they lost, why the Dodgers lost 11-4. As one of the main reasons was the 6th inning killed the 6th inning killed the Dodgers. The Blue Jays had 9 runs in the 6th inning. In the World Series, you cannot give up 9 runs in 1 inning. They just completely dominated them in that 6th inning. After being down, they were down 2-0 at one point. They were able to tie it. The Blue Jays did tie it 2-2. And that was due to the Varsho 2-run homer. He was able to tie it for the Blue Jays after the 4th inning. Then going to the 6th, they scored 6 straight runs. And then at one point, they lead 9-2 in the game and ended up winning 11-4. You can't have that in the World Series. That just can't happen. So, yeah, 9 runs in 1 inning. That's definitely how you lose a game. And then the Blue Jays had 14 hits overall. They had 14 hits in the game. So they're getting that many hits. And I think the Dodgers had 8 hits in the game. So the Blue Jays got 6 more hits than the Dodgers did. So that definitely played a factor into how they were able to finish the game with 11 runs to the Dodgers just 4 runs that they had in the game. And then Addison Barger, he had a good game as well. I shouted him out. He had 2 at-bats, 1 run, 2 hits, 4 RBIs, and a home run in that game. He played well. I enjoyed what he was able to do. And the Blue Jays take home game 1. They won at home, got another game at home later today. It was a great win for the Blue Jays. Got off to a hot start, won at home, didn't start the same way they started last series, being down 2-0, and they were able to win this game at home, and they just outplayed the Dodgers. So shout out to the Blue Jays. I mean, I really don't care for either team because at the end, I'm a Cardinals fan, so seeing the National League team in the World Series, it's not the Cardinals, is kind of disappointing. But at the same time, I'm also a Julio Rodriguez fan, so seeing the Mariners lose to the Blue Jays was not exciting either. And I already talked about Julio in that series. So the two teams that I don't like in the World Series, but on a serious note, it has been the entertaining playoffs. Wish the game was a bit better because the game, it was that 6th inning and it was electric, but that was mainly just from the Blue Jays. At the end of the day, the Dodgers still lost by 7 runs. I just hope for it to be. I'm hoping the rest of the series is a bit more competitive than what last night's game was. But that's all I have for that. And then let's talk about the title. Let's talk about what this means. The NBA is under investigation, and Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, and Damon Jones were all arrested by the FBI. Now, Chauncey Billups was arrested for being involved in an illegal poker operation tied to the mafia. That's fucking crazy. And Terry Rozier was just being asked to make money, and he was arrested for that. So and I don't know why players still do this. As a multimillionaire, I don't know why you're risking your life for a few thousand. Like, you're playing worse for the purpose of making money, even though you're a millionaire. I don't get that. And then Damon Jones was involved in both somehow. So he's getting at the worst out of all 3 of these guys, and maybe other people involved, because apparently the Lakers, Hornets, Raptors, Trailblazers, and another team were involved somehow or connected to it. So Damon Jones, really, he's done for it. You're involved with this illegal betting operation. I don't know how him being involved in both is crazy to me. But it was an article by USA Today that I read. It was by Steve Garner and Mark Donato. I might have said his name wrong, but close enough. And Chauncey Billups' lawyer made a statement claiming that he had never put his Chauncey Billups never put his life, reputation, and freedom into jeopardy for anything, especially not doing something, especially not for playing poker. And I'm not saying that may be true, but I don't. How does Chauncey Billups' name get tied to that if he is not involved? Obviously, a lawyer is going to claim that their client isn't involved. That's the job of a lawyer to prove their client innocent. But if Chauncey is innocent, his name shouldn't be tied to this at all. It shouldn't be no way that Chauncey Billups is connected to this. I'm going to talk about the case first, then I'll talk more about the title. But if Chauncey Billups wasn't involved, how is he connected to an illegal poker operation tied to the mafia? Does he have something else going on with the mafia that we don't know about? Because you don't just get looped into something with the mafia out of nowhere. That's not something that just happens. That doesn't just happen. And let me know what y'all think in the chat if I'm reaching or not. But that's not something on a normal day basis his name is tied in. Let's tie his name to a poker operation. Like, I don't think, especially with the mafia, you think that don't make sense to me. And then the whole scandal was really weird because, like I said, these are multi-millionaires who are putting their lives on the line, putting their lives in jeopardy, rigging games, getting inside information. Apparently, Damian Jones had inside information about LeBron's injury, and one of the parlays was fucked up because Damon Jones had inside information about an Anthony Davis injury, and Anthony Davis wasn't supposed to play that game. Not only did AD play, he had a career night. It wasn't his not a career night. He didn't have a career high, but he had like a 30-point double that game when it was informed that he wasn't gonna play. So they were being lied to. So that fucked up the parlay, and that fucked up some shit. So now that got Damon Jones like even deeper. That really fucked up Damon Jones because AD wasn't supposed to play that game because he had this quote unquote inside information. So somebody's feeding him information, and then Anthony Davis plays that game. So that fucks up everything. So the Damon Jones thing, I won't even touch on because at the end of the day, he getting inside information. He tied to the mafia. Like Damon Jones, he's really done for. And Terry Rozier, he was already investigated by the NBA, but he was like, he had to clear his phone or something. Because Adam Silver made a statement. He was like, we checked his phone, we followed all the procedures and this and that, and they said the evidence was insufficient. So obviously the FBI probably got more resources than the NBA. So the NBA didn't find anything on Terry Rozier. But so Adam Silver, he was just like, he can go back to action. He can't play. I mean, he can play because we ain't find nothing on him. And then 2 years later, the FBI, they're not done with the investigation. They found out some stuff about him rigging games the way that he was playing. Now, some of those clips are outrageous. Some of them was basic misses. But still, it was like, how do you turn the ball over that badly? You're faking an injury, but you don't show any signs of an injury. And it wasn't like it was no contact, like he just landed in a weird way or something. Like it was just, oh, I'm injured. But he didn't get an actual medical evaluation. So Terry Rozier is a dumbass. Like you're a multi-millionaire and you're putting, even like Damon Jones, he was in the NBA. You were LeBron's shooting coach after your career. So I don't get the point of you risking your life for a few thousand when you made millions within the NBA. And then Chauncey Billups, like I said, he's tied to a illegal poker operation. And you're telling me that's just a coincidence that, okay, sure, the lawyer has to say that. Like the lawyer can't say, oh yeah, he was tied to it. Like the lawyer has to say that Chauncey Billups wouldn't do this or put his life in jeopardy and this and that. But I find that hard to believe because if he wasn't willing to put his life or family or anybody in jeopardy, it wouldn't be no way possible he would be able to be tied to any of this. Like if you're tied to this and now you're put on leave by the NBA, same with Terry Rozier, you're put on immediate leave, you're probably not coming back. And the reason why I say this hurts black coaches because it's hard. It's already hard for some black coaches to get into the league. And it's always been an issue, representation within the league, especially when it comes to black coaches. So with Chauncey Billups getting arrested, this is going to paint another image, another narrative of black men in the sports world. Because if Chauncey Billups if he's found guilty, this puts it up for other black coaches, for the Mark Jacksons, for the Mike Browns of the world. Because people are going to look at black people with this stereotype. It's 3 black men wrapped into this. It's Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, and Damon Jones. They were the first 3 arrested, and they're all black men within this investigation. So at the end of the day, it's going to put a negative stigma, even more negative stigma that's already had on black men around the world. And that's going to fuck it up even more because we're going to be looked at as untrustworthy and all this because of stupid shit like this. Because you're not trying to convince me that you're just tied to the mafia and it's a coincidence. It's like, oh, you can say, like I said, the lawyer has to say that Chauncey wouldn't do any of this, especially not for no poker game. But if you wouldn't put your life or family in jeopardy, you wouldn't be tied to this at all. It wouldn't be any way possible for you to be tied to this investigation. So that's just hard for me to believe. You can find the article on USA Today about Steve Garner and Mark G. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I'm just saying Mark G. But black men are already looked at as not smart enough. They don't have the intelligence. Some black men are looked at as too smart, like Jaylen Brown, who got an education, who got a degree. So it's hard for me to believe that, oh yeah, Chauncey just didn't do this. He just wouldn't put his family in jeopardy. He wouldn't do anything. Like, sure, you don't want to put your family in jeopardy, but at the same time, you want to make a few extra thousand as a multi-millionaire. What purpose are you trying to serve? You're a multi-millionaire. I think Shaq said something along the lines of this. It's not the exact quote, but Shaq was like, he's disappointed with these guys because they're multi-millionaires and you're putting your life on the line for $300,000. when you made plenty of money, how much more do you need? Is it a problem of going broke? Did you spend too much money? Like, I don't know what's going on. And Shaq made a very valid point. He didn't say nothing disrespectful. He was just keeping it real. Like, he's disappointed because these are his NBA brothers who are making dumb decisions like this. And it's going to be hard for them to be found innocent. And the NBA said they couldn't find sufficient evidence against Terry Rozier. Well, the FBI found it. The FBI got these niggas packed up. And this won't be all. It's probably going to be other arrests made at the end of the day. Like, these not going to be Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, Damon Jones. They're not going to be the only people arrested. Now, Damon Jones might be the only one connected to both cases. I don't know why Damon Jones is just stupid because you're connected to both the legal poker operation and rigging games, giving insider information on injuries. This sort of shit not to be true sometimes for AD to suit up and play that game, which is hilarious. So it's weird what's going on. Chauncey Billups, like I said, it's not even trying to be disrespectful to him, but at the end of the day, like Shaq said, if you're a multi-millionaire, you need that much more money. Because what purpose does this serve? What is the end goal here? It don't make sense to me at all why any of these guys would do this, especially Chauncey Billups, who was a coach, was doing a good job with Portland, and then the Blazers find out their coach is arrested. Like, okay, you have an assistant coach, but how the fuck do you deal with your coach getting arrested? That's different from a coach getting sick or a coach getting fired or something like that. Your coach gets arrested and you have a game that same day and you end up winning that game somehow. Shout out to the Trailblazers. But your coach gets arrested, that's way different than Greg Popovich getting sick when he did last year, or who was it? Mike Brown when he got fired. Like, it's way different. A nigga getting arrested, that's a whole different story. And then, like I said, for a black coach, that's just unfortunate because it's going to be harder for black coaches to get jobs now, especially in the NBA, especially if there's more black men tied into this. Like, it's already a negative stigma on black men looked at as not intelligent enough for certain roles, looked at as they're not the best fit for some of the coaching jobs. So it's like, this is why I feel like it's going to be the last regime of black coaches within the NBA because of Chauncey Billups being tied and connected to the mafia, and I don't see him being found innocent in this case. Like, I'm gonna read more into it. I read the article by USA Today, but once we get an update if we get more updates, I'm gonna definitely keep covering this and talk about it some more. But this is just gonna be a negative impact on future roles for black coaches because it's gonna be seen as, oh, it's just another dumb black guy in a coaching role. Like, this is terrible. This is a terrible look for black men. And it's not to say that Chauncey represents all black men, but as a coach, as a former champion, he kind of does in a sense because he's one of the few that was able to break through and become a coach. Because there's not a lot of black coaches in the NBA, and now we're going to see less. Even if this isn't the last regime, we're going to see less of black coaches because of this. Chauncey Billups, you really fucked up with this one. Like I said, lawyer got to say what he got to say to prove his client innocent. I'm not mad at the lawyer for what he said. That's a normal statement that you have to make in that situation. But I'm disappointed in all three of these men, Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, Damon Jones, especially Terry Rozier, because him and Jontay Porter got caught for doing the same thing. At the end of the day, you're in the top 1% of basketball players who made it to the NBA. Why are you risking your career to make a few extra thousand when you're making millions already? Even Jontay Porter, he might not have been making $1 million, but he was still getting more than a G League contract. He was on a 2-way contract, if I'm not mistaken. And you're playing worse to make less money than you're already making. Like, that's disappointing. Like, you're in the top 1% of the world, even with coaching. Like, not everybody can be a coach. Like, Damon Jones, he was LeBron's shooting coach. Like, not everybody gets these roles, and y'all are fucking all this up for a few extra thousand. What does it do for you? You guys are rich. Y'all are multi-millionaires. And it's not to say that they don't have problems, because people have plenty of problems. And that's not just financial, but financially, you shouldn't have any issues. Mentally, spiritually, those are two different things from financial. But financially, these guys should be set. Now, mentally and spiritually, I don't know what's going on with them personally, because I can't speak on their personal lives. But y'all are financially stable and risk y'all lives to get a little extra money that doesn't really help you in the long run. Very disappointed. For the last segment of the podcast, Weekly Sports Talk with Ed, episode 69, Athletes of the Week. Damn, I yapped for a minute. For the NHL, going with Seth Jarvis, who led the Hurricanes to a 2-1 record this week, has 4 total points, which were 2 goals and 2 assists, and played 20 plus minutes in all 3 games. I did watch 2 of the games. It was one I didn't see. It was, but he's had a good week. So, and I think the Hurricanes also the team I watched the most. So I decided to pick somebody from there for this week. So that's for the NHL. Whoever I watched the most that week, that's likely who I pick for athlete of the week. So I'm not able to watch all the games, of course. Same for the other sports as well. For women's soccer, I went with Reagan Salver, who had 1 goal. She's the goalkeeper for the Western Michigan women's soccer team, who went 2-0 this past week. Only gave up 1 goal, had 3 saves, and did a great job as a goalkeeper. One of those wins was against Akron, a game that I had to work and had to see, unfortunately. But Reagan, she had a great week, so shout out to her for Western Michigan. And Western Michigan women's soccer team has been playing great this year. For the NBA, I went with SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, averaging 45 points per game, 6.5 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game on 47, 18, 82 splits. And OKC is 2-0. Played first ever team in NBA to playing back-to-back overtime games in their first 2 games of the season. So I know these guys are tired. Obviously, the three-point percentage isn't great, but aside from that, Shai's getting to the line, and he's drawing contact, and he's doing a great job leading them to wins. And if J-Lo was healthy, he probably wouldn't have to put up this many points. So I think, he's obviously still on average 30, but if J-Lo was there, he probably is averaging that 30 instead of that 45 within these first 2 games. Just had a career high 55. So shout out to Shai. He's been having a phenomenal week to start the season. For the NFL, along with Christian McCaffrey, in their 2010 win against the Falcons, he had 24 carries for 129 yards and 2 touchdowns, leading the team in rushing, and he also led the team in receiving yards with 7 catches and 72 yards. So Christian McCaffrey, great game last week, so I got to give him his props. For college football, I went with Diego Pavia for Vanderbilt, who defeated LSU 31-24 last week. He had 160 yards through the air and 1 touchdown, while also running the ball 17 times for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. For the MLB, I went with Trey Yesevich, 9.2 innings pitched, gave up 10 hits, gave up 4 runs, gave up 1 home run, but he had 12 strikeouts in 1 of the 2 games that he played in, which was Game 6 of the American League Championship Series and Game 1 of the World Series. He missed Game 7 due to an injury in the American League Championship Series, but he was able to heal those few days. They're able to get the win, and then he was right back into the starting lineup. Had a great win against the Dodgers, so great week for Trey Yesevich. As the Blue Jays have won 3 straight games, and 1 of them he didn't play in, but 2 of them he made a huge impact. For the WWE, I went with the Phenomenal Dragons, the team of AJ Styles and Dragon Lee, defeating Judgment Day to become the new Raw Tag Team Champions. So shout out to them. They had a great win, and hopefully they have a great reign as tag champions. Something that I'm excited to see. For AEW, I went with Chris Statlander. She retained her the AEW Women's World Championship versus Toni Storm at Wrestle Dream last Saturday, and then she cut a good promo this past Dynamite this Wednesday, and her segment was cool with Mercedes Moné and Harley Cameron. That was a cool segment, so they're doing a good job building up that feud. And then for volleyball, and then on a high note, Delaney Gash, our top volleyball player this year for the University of Akron, we went 1-1 this past week, but Delaney, she had 30 kills, 10 digs, and 31.5 points in the last 2 games, and we got a win last night, so against NIU. So hopefully that continues this afternoon again in another game against NIU. Hopefully we're able to secure that win as well. But with that being said, that has been Weekly Sports Talk with Ed, episode 69. So make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, comment what y'all thought about anything that I said, share for others to see. And just want to clear this up. This is not the title, the thumbnail. This is not a race baiting thing. This is just my honest opinion. I think Chauncey Billups being involved in this FBI case really fucks it up for Black coaches, because it's already a negative stigma around Black coaches. So or black people in general in the sports world. So I think this is a negative, especially if he's found guilty. Now, if he's found innocent, I will apologize, but I done, like I said, I don't know if he'll be found. Like, I'm gonna read more into the case and do a more detailed breakdown. I think I did a pretty good breakdown today, but if need be, if there's other information that comes out about other people, then I will do a full breakdown. Might even do a collab about a breakdown on that. But with that being said, that's it for this episode of Weekly Sports Talk with Ed, episode 69. So I will see y'all next week for episode 70. Peace out and hope y'all enjoyed the video.